Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taramina, blog of the Dragon's Den, blog of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts of Between Taramina and Oriented Neighborhood Television. I'd like to welcome our friends watching on Oxford Community Television and also those watching on YouTube. We got a great show here to talk about. Of course, we'll recap what happened last week. Of course, Troy Athens soccer lost to East Kentwood in the state final, and also a lot of football coverage as well. And also we got volleyball coverage as well, and also previewing a little bit of girls basketball with girls basketball tryouts starting on Monday. So let's go to our main objective, which is football. Of course, when you look at what happened this week, of course, the OAA is now down to 3 teams remaining. And when you look at Groves, Southfield Arts and Tech, and Clarkston, of course, last week, Oak Park, which is completely handled by Detroit Martin Luther King. I was shocked how that game went. I was very surprised how the Knights played in that game against the Crusaders on a Saturday afternoon in Detroit. I thought Oak Park would have put up a much better fight than they'd showed against Detroit Martin Luther King. But, Detroit Martin Luther King's a very good football team. There's no doubt about that. And Oak Park knew they were going to have their hands full with Embry Thomas, their the stud wide receiver that Detroit Martin Luther King had. He went nuts in the second half in that game. But when you look at what happened, what happened to Oak Park's offense? What happened to the running attack? How did they get shut down? I mean, how in the world did Oak Park's offense, they're very good offense, there's no doubt about that, but how did their offense get shut down by a very talented Detroit Martin Luther King defense? I mean, that to me was one of the most shocking things that I would thought happened. Was they ended up letting Detroit Martin Luther King control the game, control tempo, and that's what happened here in this game. That's what happened last year. That's what happened, and why Oak Park is now out of the playoffs. Of course, Detroit Martin Luther King will take on Temperance Bedford in the next round, the regional final, and that winner could take on, likely, Groves. And Groves, the way they've been playing in the state playoffs, they've been on a mission themselves. They've been playing very well. Of course, they shut out Birmingham Brother Rice in district final 24-0. And they're led by their defense. I thought Groves' defense has played much better. They've only allowed 6 points, I think, since they played since that horrible, disastrous game at Saline where nothing went right for them. In that loss to Saline, Groves has picked it up defensively. They're starting to score points. They're starting to control things. They're starting to get a rhythm in there. And Brendan Flaherty's team's done a magnificent job in building that team. Over at Groves, of course, they got a solid running game, which has done wonders for them. But also, when you look at what Groves has done, they've been very consistent. And you look at what Groves has, and it's basically saying, well, this is a good football team, and a very good football team that Groves has. I mean, when you look at the Falcons, this is a team that, I said early in the year, Groves was a 3-6 football team. And, and I looked at the schedule, and I said, where do I see them getting at least maybe 4, 5, maybe 6 wins? And then all of a sudden, this is a team that went perfect this year. They went in the division this year. They didn't go perfect overall. They lost that tough game to Saline. But this Groves football program the last 2 years, it's been very special in Beverly Hills, the way this team's been playing. And this is I think this is personally right now, if I had to put him right now against Detroit Martin Luther King right now, I would say it would be a hell of a game between those two teams. Now, Detroit Martin Luther King will have him beat on talent, but if it's a defensive slugfest, I would take Groves because the way that this team is playing, their quarterback's playing very well. And the way they played against Marion Brother Rice, a team they have not beaten since 1963, it's unbelievable. It's incredible that how a team like that would just, for the first time, a team would beat Birmingham Brother Rice. It's a school within your near your area. You beat them for the first time since 1963. Shut them out to make that even better for you. And you look at the beneficiaries of Groves, and and they're right now in a good spot. They're in the regional final, getting ready to take on Groves Point South. I mean, where else do you think Groves will do? What else you think they could do? Southfield Arts and Tech and West Bloomfield. Of course, this game here was really, I was surprised how the margin of score was, 41-6. Last week, I could not believe how dominant the Warriors played in that game, and most of their team is hurting. Of course, when you have when your two running backs, Eric McKern, is out with an injury, and also you're starting a quarterback in John Darby, who I think personally might be a better quarterback than Sam Johnson III. I mean, Darby took over that offense and basically made Southfield Arts and Tech's offense virtually into a read option type of game. I'm not being mean to Johnson here, but I just think Darby right now is a better option right now running the offense than Johnson, even though Johnson is hurt right now. But to see what they did against West Bloomfield, which is absolutely just incredible. I mean, they made the Lakers look so bad. I mean, this is the second week in a row that they made West Bloomfield just look bad. This is Southfield Arts and Tech team right now that's rolling, winning 7 straight games since the death of Kara Allen and that loss to Orion. I mean, I think that right now the Warriors, they're rolling right now. They're playing with a lot of heavy hearts. They're going to have a tough challenge this week. There's no doubt about that. But right now, Southfield Arts, I'm surprised what happened to West Bloomfield. I'm shocked about what happened to West Bloomfield, that they were just absolutely manhandled by Southfield Arts and Tech. And to see them put up 41 points on them, it's just absolutely incredible the way they did. But for Southfield Arts and Tech, you know what I mean? This is an interesting run that they're on right now. And there are a lot of firsts right now for this new Southfield Arts and Tech school. So this is very interesting there. Probably one of the most interesting games that I called this game. Was Clarkson going up to Davison and just absolutely putting a stomping on him. Of course, Davison coming in was 10-0. Had a very good running back at Tully Robb. He was shut down. Tully Reed, he was shut down. They had a good quarterback. I mean, Clarkson did a pretty good job containing him, despite the fact he scored 2 touchdowns. But Davison had a lot of trouble stopping Michael Flugel and JT King, which is something I expected that would happen. And Clarkson just went into Davison and just went in there and just beat him pretty bad. I mean, when you look at it, what they did was basically controlled the game. They used their line, they're physical. I mean, it's what Clarkson likes to do. They like to wear you out. They like to control things and control tempo, and that's what they did in this game. So now Clarkston now moves on, has a home game with Romeo, and that'll be a very interesting matchup right there for him. Because when you look at, we're going to preview all 3 of those regional final games in a minute. But when you look at what Clarkson's done, you look at Clarkson's pass. They get by Romeo this week. You're looking at Novi Detroit Catholic Central, I think they match up very well with. I mean, I don't think Novi Detroit Catholic Central is going to knock out Granville. I really don't think they're going to do that. I think Granville's going to pull off the upset. I mean, I'm not being mean to the CC, but if you don't have a true passing game, they're going to have problems. They're defending Catholic. They won the Catholic League this year. But you look at this game, you're still who you are based on your identity. And Novi Detroit Catholic Central's identity is they like to run the ball. Granville just ended a curse last week, knocking off Rockford. They beat them 27-9. It was shocking. Very shocking. They had to block a punt just to win that game. That was absolutely incredible how they did that. But let's preview the 3 regional games here. Of course, they're very interesting coming up this week. Of course, when you look at the games we got here, of course, let's go with our first game, of course, which is going to be Groves taking on Grosse Pointe South. Of course, this matchup here is a very interesting game because, Groves is right now rolling. We mentioned that they are rolling. And since that 24-0 win over Birmingham Brother Rice. Now, Grosse Pointe South had to beat their arch rival, Grosse Pointe North, 24-14 last week. Now, Grosse Pointe North, because of a home conflict, even though they were the top seed in their district, they had to play all their games on the road, and because of an MHA violation they had. So that's how Grosse Pointe South ended up getting a home game with Grosse Pointe North. So that's what happened there, and Grosse Pointe South ended up beating North 24-14. I think it's the second time that Grosse Pointe South I think Grosse Pointe North beat Grosse Pointe South earlier in the year, 8-4. So Grosse Pointe South got a bit of revenge for what happened in that game. So I had to give credit to where credit's due there. Now for their matchup with Groves, I just think when you look at it here, I don't know how Grosse Pointe South is going to score points against Groves. I really don't know how. Their quarterback Logan Miko is a good player. Michael Breaker's a good player. But I just don't know. Groves really defensively does not have a true weakness. And how South is going to try to expose Groves my guess is beyond me. So when you look at that matchup, I think Grosse Pointe South is going to be overmatched in this game. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble in this game. And that's why I think Groves will move on to the state semifinals, where I think they're going to play Detroit Martin Luther King. And, and that's going to be an interesting matchup there if Groves does play Detroit Martin Luther King, because I think they match them up very well. But at the end of the day, it's going to be who will have an answer for Amory Thomas for Detroit Martin Luther King. But it'll be a very interesting game. I'm not sure if that game will take place either at Ferndale or at Berkeley or at Hazel Park. It would be a very interesting matchup between Groves and Detroit Martin Luther King if those two teams were to play. So that's an interesting matchup right there in that one. Let's go to Southfield Arts and Tech taking on Utica Eisenhower. They got to play them at Swinehart Field. Now, when I look at Southfield Arts and Tech, as I mentioned, rolling right now, a lot of emotion, playing well right now, but I think this is going to be the toughest team they're going to see all year. And not being mean to Clarkson, not being mean to Orion, not being mean to West Bloomfield or Detroit Martin Luther King. I think Utica Eisenhower is a more complete team than those 3 teams. So when I look at that game, the Southfield Arts and Tech, they're hurt right now. This is a good matchup on paper, but when I look at what Utica Eisenhower did last week to Macomb, Dakota, and they killed this team 42-7. This is the first time that they've beaten Dakota twice since 2011. This was a good football team Utica Eisenhower beat in Macomb, Dakota. Had a very stud running back in Kaiser Carlson. Utica Eisenhower just shut him down. Their defense just shut him down. You got to give Chris Smith a lot of credit, for what happened there. But what's benefited the Eagles this year is they run a triple option attack led by their quarterback, Max Whitler. Of course, Mike's Whitler, because he's a very good quarterback. He runs a triple option like no other. He had almost 118 yards rushing against Macomb, Dakota, and almost 150 yards passing. That's insane for an athlete. That is just insane. And then you have a running back in Jack Promiker, who did very well against Dakota. He absolutely tortured him on the ground, and he was a very good back. What he did it against Dakota was absolutely incredible, absolutely insane in that shocking win against Macomb, Dakota. Now, on Southfield Arts and Tech's defense, Utica Eisenhower has not seen a team like Southfield Arts and Tech, though. With the speed that they have, the outside, Marcus Storns, I think Marquise Storns is due to have a big game this week. But the question is going to be is, how healthy is the Warriors? How healthy are they? But as mentioned, this is going to be a very tough task, I think, for Utica, for Southfield Arts and Tech having to go up to Macomb County to Swinehart Field to play a very good, talented, Utica Eisenhower team. Utica Eisenhower, in my opinion, is the best team in Macomb County. There's no doubt about that. And they have to go to Swinehart Field, which is going to be very difficult. I don't know. I think Darby will have a good game here in this one. But if Southfield Arts and Tech's defense does not show up in this game against a very talented Eagles defense, then I think it's going to be a long night for the Warriors. I mean, and when I look at this matchup on paper, I just don't see any advantages that the Warriors have besides speed. If the Warriors can use their speed, who knows what happens in that game? Who knows? It could be very close. I still think a lot of people have this being a blowout, but because I just don't think that but if the Warriors can somehow shut down Whitler and Promiker, I think they got a great chance of pulling this one off. But Utica Eisenhower really has not been tested since the Romeo game, where that game ended up being 16-14 in favor of Eisenhower. So in this one here, Southfield looks like they're the more battle-tested team right now. But, Utica Eisenhower has been killing everybody as of late. So in this one here, if I had to take somebody based on grit, I mean, like, home field favors Utica Eisenhower, talent favors Utica Eisenhower. But if I had to look at schedule right now, I had to take Southfield Arts and Tech. So this one's got a lot of interesting dynamics into this game. So, but last but not least, got Romeo taking on Clarkson. Of course, Romeo was very impressive in their last two games. Of course, they played Orion and Waterford Mott. They were very impressive against Waterford Mott, shutting down Keith Fields, only 5 yards rushing in that game. But they had a little bit more of a tougher time with Orion in the first round than they did against Waterford Mott. And, when you look at Romeo, this is a very physical football team. They're a very small team, but they have a lot of grit. They're physical. They like to play smash mouth in your face type football. The running back's okay, but their quarterback is very good, and they got a good wide receiver, and a good running back / wide receiver who can play that both those routes. But they're going against Clarkson. JT King, Micah Flugel. I mean, when I look at this matchup here, Clarkson's real big up front. I just think that when you look at, and of course Romeo has to travel to Clarkson. Now, yeah, Romeo's defending Division I state champions, but this is a team in Clarkson who I think is going to I think when I look at this is going to be a physical matchup, but it's going to be a very interesting dynamic where I could see Clarkson just going in there and just laying it to Romeo, because Romeo defensively is not necessarily, they're physical, yes, but I just think Clarkson's got a big enough line up front that I think is going to match up well at Romeo. I think it's Clarkson's offensive line is going to just pound Romeo all night long, and I think it's going to be a long night for Romeo and in Clarkston, and I think the Wolves are going to win this game pretty convincingly over Romeo. Now, a lot of people say this is going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be close at all because, Romeo going on the road, it's going to be a very tough matchup, I think, for them going into Clarkston and beating the Wolves. It's going to be a very tough chore going forward for Romeo against Clarkston. Final thoughts. We'll see what happens this week in Week 3. So, of course, the winner of the Clarkston Romeo game will take on either Novi, Detroit Catholic Central, or Granville. Of course, I said Granville could upset Novi, Detroit Catholic Central, and I think that could very well happen. So we'll see what happens there. Can't wait to come back. We're going to recap the soccer finals and volleyball. And also we'll have girls basketball a little bit here on OAA Now. Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Tamini here. Of course, we're going to recap. We got some girls volleyball to cover this week, and also we got some some boys soccer results. Of course, the state final occurred with Troy Athens being in there. They had a very tough loss to East Kentwood in penalty kicks. They ended up losing that one. They ended up losing 1-0 in that game. To the Falcons. It was they denied the Red Hawks chance of winning their first state championship since 1997. And sometimes when you look at soccer, you know what I mean? If you're a team that lives and dies by penalty kicks, sometimes, you can win twice, but then that third time you get struck. And that's what happened to Troy Athens. Of course, the whole Macomb Dakota fiasco with them last week kind of really just put a lot of having to go back there and redo that game. I mean, that really was something that, that was huge there in that one. And then that was a huge win. And then not only to win that game on that Friday night, but then having to come back and play on that Monday where they ended up winning it officially. And then, of course, they went and beat Rochester in the state semifinal in penalties. So that was another huge win for them. And then, of course, the East Kentwood game. When you look at what happened in that game, I thought East Kentwood really controlled the first half. But Troy Athens really controlled the second half. I mean, they controlled tempo and all that. And also the overtime. So you got to give the Red Hawks a lot of credit for what they had to go through this week. They finished the year at 19-5-2. We're third in the red. This team's got nothing to be ashamed of. Finishing the year, making the state finals for the first time since 1997. So this is a huge accomplishment for Troy Athens going forward there and the finishing up strong in that process here too. So let's recap what happened in the volleyball regionals. Of course, Hazel Park made the final, lost to Detroit Henry Ford Academy. Really wasn't close, so it was a tough loss there for Hazel Park there to go down in that format. So, in the district final, so, get the Class B out. We got a lot of Class A to talk about. Of course, Harrison ended up losing to Farmington Hills Mercy in the district final, 3-0. Of course, Farmington Hills Mercy, they ended up winning their semifinal game with Brighton. Now they're going to be playing Novi in the regional final. So that is going to be a very interesting matchup there. Of course, Novi and Mercy are in two different leagues, so we won't cover them as much. So, on their path to the state in the state playoffs. So let's go to what happened at Birmingham Marion. Of course, that one was a heck of a district matchup between Bloomfield Hills and Birmingham Marion. That one ended up being a interesting matchup. It had a lot of drama in that one. For Bloomfield Hill, for Seaholm and Birmingham Marion, of course, for Seaholm and Bloomfield Hills, I think that went 4 games, and I think that was a heck of a game between those two teams. It could have went 5, but either way, at the end of the day, I just thought that Bloomfield Hills a little bit better than people thought. I just think that what happened in that one was, Bloomfield Hills just took advantage of Seaholm, and then I was shocked at how bad Bloomfield Hills played against Birmingham Marion. And yeah, it was at home, yes, but it's kind of very disappointed how Bloomfield Hills played in that game against Birmingham Marion. Now I know Birmingham Marion was motivated to what happened last year, but I thought Bloomfield Hills would have showed up a little bit better. I thought that I was very disappointed in the effort to what I heard over there with Bloomfield Hills and Birmingham Marion. I was just very disappointed how that occurred in Birmingham Marion ended up winning their district. They ended up winning the regional matchup against Grosse Pointe North, and now they're going to be taking on Sterling Heights Stevenson in the district final, in the regional final over at Troy. So let's go. Speaking of Sterling Heights Stevenson, they did take on Troy Athens. Troy Athens, of course, winning their district, up to no surprise. But I was surprised at how Stevenson ended up beating Troy Athens in 3 games, because I thought this could have went maybe 4 games. Because, when you look at how successful Coach Christine Stanchuk's team at Troy Athens was, when you look at, you have a girl like Alexa Van Hoff, who is a very talented player. And to take on Stevenson, I still can't think about Stevenson's fashion statement. That's just a complete disaster there. But when you look at Stevenson, they played well in that game against Troy Athens at Troy. But, when you look at their game of Birmingham Marion, I think it's going to be a tough game there. I know Michigan Volleyball Coach Association, I think that Twitter site, they picked Stevenson to win that regional. They had to beat Birmingham Marion 5. And to me, that's shocking. I think Birmingham Marion wins that regional. I think they're going to beat Sterling Heights Stevenson in that regional and move on. They're going to say, well, Birmingham Marion's back, and they very well could be back. So, they very well could be back. So that's very interesting there in that one. Let's go to the Rochester district, the Stony Creek district, because that had some fireworks written all over it over there. Of course, they had a heck of a game, a 5-game with Utica Eisenhower. Could have went either way, but at the end of the day, it was Utica Eisenhower that took down Stony Creek in 5 games at home at Stony Creek. It kind of made feeling that game with that game from last year's matchup at Utica Eisenhower was no fluke. That Utica Eisenhower proved that they did belong in the in this league, in that district, and they played really well. This was a matchup that I thought could have went either way. And you look at what happened in that one, I thought that when both teams are fighting really hard, Stony Creek's a very young team. There's no doubt about that. They only lose like 2 players. Molly Asmus and I think it's Emma Curd. Those are the 2 girls they lose. But this is a very young volleyball team that's experienced a ton of volleyball under first-year coach Ross Talbot. Of course, Talbot, we know, took over the job from Mandy Moran. He used to coach at Lake Orion. And look what Talbot's done in his first year at Stony Creek. Rochester City Championship. I don't think he's going to give that up anytime soon. He's took his team to the district final. And he's got a very young team back, And this is a team that took Utica Eisenhower to the brink. This is a team that took their team to, when you take a team to the brink like that, Utica Eisenhower this year was the Macomb Area Conference Red Division champion. And Stony Creek took them to the brink. And it came that close. It came that close to ending Utica Eisenhower's season. Now, Utica Eisenhower's season did eventually end in the regional semifinal against Fenton. And that game went 5 games. That was a crazy game between those two. And you look at what happened there. It went back and forth out in Anchor Bay. And that was a crazy matchup there. But back to Stony Creek. I think this is a Cougar team that's going to be primed for this could be a dynasty we could be witnessing. Besides Clarkston, I think that Stony Creek could be the next team that could contend for some championship hardware, maybe in the near future. So Stony Creek volleyball right now, I believe is heading in the right direction. And under Coach Ross Talbot, he's done a magnificent job in building that team up. He's got the players in there that he likes. He's got the players that can build the foundation at Stony Creek. So it's a good foundation for Stony Creek going forward. So, he's got all those players he likes. So, good system in there, good culture in there. The culture really at Stony Creek has not changed. So they're going to be good for years to come. Watch out for Stony Creek next year. And then, of course, let's go to, I think probably the best district was the one at Lake Orion. Of course, this was a very interesting district. And you look at Lake Orion and Clarkson district final going 5 games. It was a no-brainer that would go 5 games between those two teams. I mean, it was perhaps one of the most craziest atmospheres on a Friday night between two rivals going at it. Yours truly was calling the game, announcing the game. It was a good game. It was a very good game. It could have went either way, but at the end of the day, Clarkston won that one and moved on to the regional semifinals. I mean, it was a 15-12 matchup there, and I was completely surprised at how, when you look at how that game went and all the runs they made, both teams made incredible runs. Of course, Orion taking game 1. Game 2 went to Clarkston. Clarkston took game 3, shockingly, 25-14. How Lake Orion came back in the second matchup to make it a game with Clarkston. Almost winning that one. And then game 3, it was all Clarkston. And then game 4, that was a tip and tuck battle. Orion winning that one. And then game 5, that was crazy. It was completely crazy what happened there. It was absolutely crazy, In that other part of the district, I was shocked how Clarkson easily took out Oxford. I was very surprised how Clarkson took out Oxford. I mean, I did not see that one coming. To be honest with you, what happened in that one. I mean, I couldn't figure out what happened in that one with Clarkston. In Oxford, because I thought Oxford would play that much better. I thought Oxford could have brought in a lot more to the table. I thought Elzerman and Briggs were going to have to be big in that game. Now, both of them were big in that game, but it just wasn't good enough. Clarkson, of course, very talented with Abby Malinowski and Sarah Austin. But Kayla Lukenbach, of course, we all know Kayla Lukenbach from girls basketball. We'll talk about her in a minute in our girls basketball segment. But you look at what she did in that game, which is absolutely incredible, especially from the center spot. And even the Orion match, I thought she was impressive she was very impressive from the center spot as well. But also they have a girl named Kayla Miller who played very well in that matchup as well. Of course, her and Lukenbach do switch and rotate at times, when you look at how that matchup occurred. Now, I thought in that matchup, Maddie Jadis, very good libero for Clarkson. Thought she played well, I thought she played well. I mean, but when I look at, in both games, but when I look at the Orion game, I thought that, I kind of would put a wash between both liberos, Lindsay Whiteman for the Dragons and Jadis for Clarkston. I think that I think in that game it just went down. It really wasn't about X's and O. I mean, it really wasn't about X's and O's. It was about who wanted it most, and you look at it in that perspective. Clarkson ended up winning that game in an epic game, 5-game set. I just think at the end of the day, when you look at it here, this should not be a district final. I mean, and I'll go over that shortly. But you look at where Clarkson is now. Of course, Clarkson now made it to the regional final. They're going to be playing Fenton in the next round. They shockingly took out Macomb, Dakota in 3 sets, 3-0. Of course, Macomb, Dakota was having a very tragic week. Of course, they had one of their students was killed in a car crash. Thoughts and prayers with her family. But this is a team that, I mean, like, I was shocked that Clarkson, beat Macomb Dakota pretty handily, you know. And you look at, Macomb Dakota's a little bit down because they did lose Carly Snyder a couple years ago. Look where Carly Snyder's at now. She's at Florida. But you look at, it's shocking to see how, how Clarkson just dominated Macomb Dakota. They just went in there and just dominated him. This is a team in Macomb Dakota that knocked off Anchor Bay, knocked off Romeo, in a very difficult district. And then to play Clarkston and just struggle with Clarkston. And that's what happened here. Was they struggled with Clarkston. And it kind of hurt them in the end. So Clarkston moved on. They're going to play Fenton in the regional final. They're the only OAA team left in the entire league right now in girls volleyball. And I think when you look at this matchup with Fenton, I don't think Clarkson's going to have any problem with Fenton. I really don't think they're going to have that much of a problem with Fenton. But Fenton, I think, is going to play a very good game with them. And I think I like Clarkson in this one. I think they're going to win in 4 games. But I'd be shocked if Fenton takes in the 5. Because I don't think the Tigers match up very well with the Wolves. I really don't. And then that winner is going north, and they're favored. If Clarkson wins, I could see them winning their quarterfinal matchup up north, and there could be an possible collision course with possibly having to play most likely Novi in the quarterfinal and the semifinal. How would that be possible? So this one here I think is going to be very interesting. A possible collision course with Novi in the state semifinal. Now, Clarkson, let's not forget, handed Novi their only loss of the year. How incredible is that? And if you look at it here, if there's one team that could beat Novi, it's Clarkson. Clarkson's freshman team this year went 116-0. That's incredible. Really incredible. That is real incredible. Now back to my debate here about regional formats. Of course, when you look at here, I think it's time for the district to consider. I think seriously, it's time for the MHA to seriously consider going to a more regional format. I really think it is, because when you look at the regional format, it kind of makes a lot more sense to go this way. And I think, I think your overall record has to do something. It has to mean something. Look what happened in lacrosse last year. Your overall record depended where your seed was at in your regional. And we had a heck of we had some great regional matchups. Not saying the district format works, but I think it's time for the MHA to seriously consider possibly putting district formats, getting rid of the district concept, and bringing out regional formats. You have enough teams there to compete for regional championship formats. Makes a lot more sense. You think about it. So, I think it's a great idea. And I know the MHA has been seriously considering going to that format next year. And I think it's going to be that way. So, we shall see what happens there with that. I think it will work wonders in girls volleyball. I really do. Because we had some great district championship games, like Spoonby Hills taking on Birmingham Marion, Utica Eisenhower, Stony Creek, Lake Orion, Clarkston. Those all should be set for the later rounds, not for the district finals. It's not right that one team has to move on, the other team has to go home. I would have to say put your top 2 teams, reseed them, basically do that type of format. That's what I think should happen. We'll see what happens going forward. So we shall see. Okay, now when we come back, we're going to talk about girls basketball. Of course, tryouts have started. So we'll get my early inside information here on OAA Now. Welcome back to OAA Now. Sammy Tamini here. Of course, girls basketball tryouts have started. They're well underway on this week here. Of course, final rounds of cuts going on. Of course, as we speak, getting ready for the girls basketball season, which starts the weekend after Thanksgiving. And you look at some teams here that could really surprise some folks. Of course, a lot of new changes, especially in the white division, of course, with new coaches in there, with 3 teams in there having new coaches. Also, we got also the Reds can be very interesting, but there's a lot of questions coming in the year, and I'd be proud to answer at least some of these questions to give some of these teams. But let's go with our let's look at our first team. Of course, let's look at Southfield Arts and Tech. Of course, this is a team that's got, this is a basketball program that had a lot of controversy surrounding themselves. When you look at what happened in that situation, how how they messed. I think Southfield School Board, of course, then they decided to name Michelle Marshall their head coach. They had an issue there with of course, forgot the Southfield coach's name in mind, but you look at what happened there. I just think that the coaching process hire there, I think that was just wrong by what the Southfield Lathrop parents, the former Southfield Lathrop parents did in signing the name Michelle Marshall, the head coach. But you look at this team, they have Deja Church going to Michigan, going to play her college ball there in Ann Arbor. But is this team a complete team? I mean, yes, you have Deja Church, but you look at the Southfield girls, who played. I mean, like, you look at a girl like Alexa Johnson, Rosaria Franklin. I mean, you look at those type of players. I mean, those type of girls have not played a red schedule, and I think they're going to have a lot of trouble in this league this year. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble. They're going to have to rely on Deja Church to save them in some games. Maybe even a lot of them this year. Their schedule is very difficult. And, it's how can the Southfield kids how can they got to develop quickly. Because the Red's a very different animal. When I look at the early projections in the Red, a lot of people ask me, the early pundits are gonna pick Southfield Arts and Tech to win this division. I don't really think so. Because I'm gonna have to disagree. I'm gonna have to disagree respectfully with the pundits. Because I cannot trust the Southfield girls, you know what I mean? Besides Deja Church, you know what I mean? Who has played in the Red Division, who's played in some big-time games, who's been in the regional. You don't have the Bello twins anymore. You really don't. And then, of course, you don't have and, of course, you just lost Antoinette Miller, who's now at Cincinnati playing college basketball. The team I think that has the most complete team is Stony Creek. And I have a lot of reasons why this Stony Creek team is for real. This team could make a serious run at maybe a regional championship this year. When you look at what Kellen James has done with this team, he's got depth. He's balanced. I mean, like, this team could rival Brad Crichton's teams when he was at Stony Creek. But I think when you look at teams that are complete in this division, I think it's Stony Creek that has the complete team. Because you look at a girl like Emily Solik, you look at an Allie Voss, you look at a Emily Elcott, who's going to go in the starting lineup. But one girl I'm curious to see how she plays is Gabby Sincola. Of course, Gabby's older brother played very well for Coach Steve Norgrove for the boys' side. But Gabby Sincola is a girl to keep an eye on. I think she can be a very dangerous player for Stony Creek this year. But they've got depth, bench, and talent. That's what Kellen James' team has. That's why I think they're the best team right now. If I had to give an edge right now between Stony Creek and Southfield Arts and Tech right now, I'd have to give the edge to Stony Creek. You know? I would. Even over Deja Churches. Even over Deja Church. The only concern I'm going to have for Stony Creek's going to probably be the interior. But that's about it. I mean, with them. Clarkson, very interesting team. As I mentioned earlier, Kayla Lukenbach still playing volleyball right now for the girls volleyball team over at Clarkston. Very good girls basketball player. Possibility going to the small forward spot. Very likely. When you look at Molly Nicholson and Allie Butch playing in the interior. Could be very interesting there. Can Clarkson's guards step up the occasion, especially Maddie Beck and Mary Milcrap? Those are the two players I'm expecting are going to have to step up their games for Clarkson. If they can get any sort of guard production there, besides, if they get any sort of guard production, this is going to be a very good basketball team. They're going to have to dress the bench, though. They're going to have to dress their bench. So, that's Clarkson. My thoughts on Clarkson. North Farmington, of course, we know about Samantha Cherney and of course Kira Crockett. Those two girls are going to be very, very good. But who's the guards? Kelly Lusk is one of them. And then you have could Patty Chichokian take over that shooting guard spot? Could be possible. North Farmington's got a lot of questions, especially who's going to be their guards and how is their bench going to look. Because their bench is going to be a concern heading into the year for Coach Jeff Simpson's team. Sophie Miller is going to enter the starting lineup. She'll probably be your 5. Then you probably have Alexa Cherney's going to be your 4. Samantha Cherney's your 4. And then, of course, you have Kira Crockett's your 3. Chokian's your 2. Leslie your point guard. Who's your bench? Who's the bench going to be? That's the question for Coach Jeff Simpson. Adams is a new coach. Of course, Shay Lewis is former assistant's the new head coach. Of course, she's going to have the luxury of Ryan Owusu, Hannah Samard, and, of course, Maggie Rogers. Very interesting combination here. Very interesting. They've seen it all. They've been through it all. Of course, Ryan Owusu, this is going to be her second coach in her 4 years. Of course, she played freshman year for Franz Wojcic. Of course, she had the 2 years with Shay Lewis, and now their senior year with the assistant. I don't know her name right now, but I will get that once I get more information. But when you look at Adams, this is a team that's going to have they're going to have some growing pains, but they're still a good basketball team. There's no doubt about it. They're still a very good girls basketball team when you look at Rochester Adams. Okay, let's go to the gold division. Of course, when you look at this division, I mean, perhaps it's an interesting league because when you look at Groves possibly being the overall favorite in this one because they got depth and, of course, they got balance. But when you look at the schedule, I mean, Groves is non-conference. Groves' league schedule is going to be just absolute. I can't trust their league schedule because it's going to be interesting with Groves. Now, they got a good enough team to compete. There's no doubt about that. And Groves will be very good this year. They got Shea Carter. You got Lexi Carter, Morgan Morrison, Jane Jung. I mean, those are going to be very, very. That's going to be a good basketball team. I think Groves will be a very good basketball team this year. Berkeley's replacing a lot. They lost Celia Summers and Zoe Anderson. They got Olivia Capitu, I believe. The Parle, that's the one. And then the other one, I can't think of her name right now, but they're going to be very talented. I think Berkeley's going to be a good team in that one. Hazel Park, very young team, of course. But they got some good players there. Jessica Wheeler's done a very nice job with that program there. Pontiac, they got a lot back. But the question is going to be is how will they be motivated for Coach Christopher Wright? That's going to be the million-dollar question for Pontiac. Ferndale, of course, they're going to have a lot of experience back. Of course, They played mostly sophomores and juniors last year. Now they're gonna be juniors and seniors. So the bulk of that Eagles team is back. So I think Ferndale can make some noise a little bit this year in there. And of course we look at but at the end of the day, and then of course Farmington. We don't know much about Farmington, but they got They should be okay. A little bit my Deuce, of course, I think it's gonna be a very interesting year for Farmington going forward there. So when I look at the early favorite, I gotta say Groves right now is the early favorite in the gold division right now. So I think Groves right now early favorite in the gold division. The blue division is very interesting. Of course, as mentioned, of course, the Mackenzie Harbord injury I think is very huge right now in this division. So if I had to put a favorite right now, I would have to give an edge to Rochester because when you look at the Falcons, this is a team that has Torrey Hawkins in there. They're gonna have Paola Barraza Duran back. Of course, she's coming off an ACL injury. Delaney Norgrove's coming back, and of course, those are three players that I think are gonna have some bounce back years. I think that Barraza Duran and Norgrove are gonna have bounce back years. They're going to have to address their 5 situation. They're going to have to address their, so that's going to be something that Coach Adam Sheldon's going to have this year to address there in that situation there. Troy Athens, another interesting team, of course. They, for Coach J.C. Klump, of course, Alexa Van Hoff, Maddie Kroom's back. So I think Troy Athens, another team to keep an eye on going forward there. And that one, of course, you got Seaholm, of course. They do have Wendy Wilkerson and Dana Horman back and Caroline Owens, but I don't know how good they're going to be until Mackenzie Harbord gets back, and I don't know how healthy she's going to be when she gets back. So, so that's a pretty much a big injury there for Seaholm, losing Harbord to that type of injury, so until February. So we'll see what happens there with Seaholm. Avondale, new coach under Phil Dawson. I think it's going to be a very interesting challenge. They got Toya Golden back and Brooke Blanchy back, but they're going to have to address some depth concerns, and of course program stability is something that they need over at Avondale, taking over for Coach Darius Whiteside there at Avondale. So that's a lot of questions there for Coach Phil Dawson and his Yellow Jacket team going forward there. And then of course we got Oak Park. Of course, this is a team that really has I think they're going to really struggle this year. I think Oak Park's going to be a team that they're going to be down a little bit. I just don't see Oak Park doing very well in this league. I really don't. I mean they had a good season last year, but as mentioned, of course, remember this is a team that's going through a coaching transition. So I think it's going to be more of a challenge for Coach Peggy Evans-Carr, I think, for to carry the Knights this year. I think Oak Park will struggle this year in the blue division. But when I had to look at the favorites, I got to go with Rochester. And at first I forgot Troy, of course. Of course, they have Megan Lenahan. And then the question's going to be who else for Troy besides Lenahan. Because Lenahan looks like she's going to have to carry the load this year for the Colts to carry the load. So it's not going to be an easy situation, I think, for Coach Simon Botto and the Colts going forward there. So if I had to look at teams right now, I'd say Rochester's favored. Then it's Troy Athens and Troy. Then Seaholm. And then you look at Avondale, then Oak Park. Those are my order right now early. And last but not least, we got the white division. Bloomfield Hills is a very interesting team. Return everybody. They got Amanda Sape, who's back, going to Kent State. She's fully healthy. Very good player. Victory Franklin's a good player. You got Samantha Patterson as well. Also, you got Amani Wright, Catherine Prina, who can shoot the 3-ball. Becca Hancock, very good energy player. Miriam Hashim, a very good energy player as well. So Jeff Rubin's loaded this year when you look at his team. Senior heavy team, very experienced team. They're built for just this season, when you look at Bloomfield Hills this year going forward. Now, let's go to Harrison, of course. Shavon Caldwell takes over this team here for Harrison, of course. You look at the Hawks. This is a team that lost Kristen Nelson and Amber Steffens. And, I think arguably the two best players that Harrison has ever had. And you look at the team that they have, of course, Olivia Perkins, who I think is going to be a very good player coming back. Teddy Pickens, very good player. Nyla Warren. Those are going to be the 3 players you're going to have to really put your foundation of your team on now. This is a basketball program that needs stability after what happened last year, of course, with the Al Walker situation, how that occurred with them, with the parent, and of course the parent turmoil over at over at Harrison, and ended up leading to him, Stephon Wilson taking over the team and head for the rest of the regular season. And they named Shavon Caldwell the head coach over there, coming over from Detroit Cornerstone. And I think she's going to do a very good job over there. But there's going to be some questions when you look at what Harrison's going to do. You know, how are they going to replace the production of Nelson and Stephens? That's the $1 million question over there for Harrison going forward, is how are they going to replace that production? Will it be a combined effort of Pickens, Perkins, and Warren? Possibility. And then let's go to West Bloomfield, of course. Zach Hilbert's team, of course. You got Jamil and Jordan Elam. And then, of course, Corey Maxey. How are they going to replace the production for Charlotte Stubbs? That's the $1 million question there at Lakerland. Of course, we'll see what happens with West Bloomfield. I think that they're going to be an interesting team to keep an eye on this year going forward in there. Let's go to Oxford, of course. This is an interesting team. Rachel Breyer takes over this team. You know, they return 4 top players. Monet Evans, Jordan Zinger, Maddie Morris, and I mentioned Monet Evans earlier. Monet Evans is going to be a very good player, there's no doubt. Malin Morris. Oh, it's actually Grace Cleveland, of course. Grace Cleveland, a very good player as well. But I thought Oxford last year played a lot out of position last year. Of course, Monet Evans is really, I could say, like an athletic 2-guard. Grace Cleveland, technically a 4. Malin Morris, I think, is going to likely be her true point guard this year. Of course, they're replacing, of course, Abigail Bukevich, who graduated this year. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Oxford does this year under Rachel Breyer. And I think it's going to be more interesting. I think it may be more, and of course, watch out for Ashley Hirschman. Very good player. Very underrated player. Watch out for Ashley Hirschman. Very underrated player. And then last but not least, we got Orion, of course, the Dragons' new coach and Kevin Kopak, of course. Forgot Royal Oak, of course. The Ravens, of course. You got Samantha Potter, June Donnellan, Claire Kahashki, and of course, the key for Royal Oak this year, their defensive mindset, replacing Gia Valentini, of course. She's left. So, very interesting. Royal Oak's going to be a very good basketball team to keep an eye on, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And they got some height, so that does make a lot of sense. Height will help you out this year, winning some games in that situation. Last but not least, we got Lake Orion, of course. Kevin Kopak takes over the team there. Of course, you have Maddie Novak, Tessa News, Soapy Wyborski back, and Delaney Bryce as well. But the question's going to be can the Dragons, they got to be stable. They have to be consistent. They have to be stable. They cannot regress. They got to take everything one step at a time. And if they do, I think Lake Orion's going to be a very good girls basketball team going forward. So, pundits are going to say Bloomfield Hills favored. You got Orion being favored. But keep an eye on Royal Oak, Oxford, West Bloomfield, Harrison. So we'll see what happens. The light this year, I think, is going to be a crazy league to keep an eye on this year as well. But we'll see what happens going forward. Final thoughts about girls basketball season. It's going to be very interesting. Stay tuned to OAA Now and also the Inside the OAA blog at Sammy@blogspot.com. For Lake Orion Girls Sports, it is Saginaw Bay at blogspot.com. So, and of course, the Lake Orion Sports at the Dragon's Den. And then, of course, for the OAA blog, it's Inside the OAA. So, we'll see what happens going forward. Final thoughts? See what happens. We shall see what happens going forward. Okay, everybody, I'm signing off here. Of course, take care, everybody. Good luck, and good luck this week for all the athletes this week competing in sports this week. Of course, cross-country results. Didn't get much about that. We'll address that in the near future, so we'll see what happens there. All right, I'm signing off here. Good night. God bless all. See you soon.
Orion Neighborhood Television, Lake Orion's community media outlet. To learn more about ONTV, visit our website at www.orionontv.org or call us at 248-393-1060.